Every week, it seems, we learn more about Donald Trump's flying bribery palace, and the whole project seems at once more ridiculous, more self-indulgent, more corrupt. Now, in a new investigation, the New York Times finds that Trump's push to speed delivery of an upgraded Air Force One led to ballooning costs and trade-offs in safety features. This administration spent hundreds of millions of dollars on top of the $400 million they have already publicly acknowledged, including, get this, we learned this from the New York Times, for the purchase of not one, but two other 747s they used to train crews and supply spare parts. The Pentagon has tried to mask the total price tag, so we don't know exactly how much taxpayers are spending on a plane that's slated to go to Trump's presidential library when it leaves. And the administration has never really explained how this is all being financed, but according to the Times, they appear to be using $934 million, almost $1 billion that they transferred from a nuclear modernization program called Sentinel last summer. In fact, Trump has been obsessed with getting a luxury aircraft befitting a king of the United States, no matter the financial cost or the security risk, since before he returned to office. The Times reports, quote, just weeks after his re-election in 2024, he sent the soon-to-be head of DOGE, Elon Musk, to speed up the years-long transformation of the two Boeing jets originally intended to replace the Air Force One fleet. Musk concluded the project had gotten bogged down by security concerns. Now, after all this, Trump's new Qatari-gifted jet is out of service while the security features they initially left off are being installed, leaving Trump to fly today on the old Air Force One. Poor guy. Tyler Pager is a White House correspondent, has been all over the story. He was among the reporters subpoenaed by the Department of Justice over their coverage of Air Force One. He also just received an award by the White House Correspondents Association for other reporting, well-deserved, I would add. Tyler, great to have you on the program.
Thanks so much for having me, Chris.
Let me just start with the Elon Musk detail, because I think that's new and we didn't know. Trump has been very Air Force One obsessed from his first term. He had a model on the desk. He's like very into planes. What do we know about what he had Musk try to go do early in the days? I think even pre-Doge, to try to speed up the Air Force One, the new Air Force Ones.
Yeah, Chris, you're right. Trump has been obsessed with getting a new plane. He was unhappy with the decades-old Air Force One fleet that presidents have been flying on since George H.W. Bush. So he dispatched Elon Musk to try to go figure out what was taking so long with Boeing, who was contracted to build new Air Force Ones for the president to fly on. And he was disappointed that in his second term, he was unlikely to be able to fly on those new planes. So he initially sent Elon to see what was going on there. It was ultimately decided that those planes were bogged down in security concerns that Elon had complained about. He said that there were too many issues, too many security things going on, that they then moved their attention from trying to speed that up to finding new planes that could serve as what they call a bridge plane for Trump during his second term.
So then they get the Qatari plane. Now, the background of that story is amazing. I mean, Trump basically says they offered him for free. Later reporting indicates that he solicited it from them. And it's like, could I have it free? They thought they were selling it to him. And it basically was like, well, I would kind of like to just have it. Then they face the same issue with the Qatari plane, right? Where they're trying to rush it to get it into service, but there's an enormous retrofitting. What do we know about how that process went?
Yeah, I mean, if you just take a look at how long it's taken to build these new Air Force Ones, which are retrofitted 747 planes, it's taken years, because Air Force One is not just the plane the president flies on. It's basically a situation room, Oval Office combination in the air. The president needs to be able to respond to any sort of disaster or emergency from the air. So there are many security communication features that are added to the plane. Through our reporting, through documents, through interviews, we've identified multiple things that the Qatari donated jet does not have. For example, you're showing it right now on the screen, this lower entryway door that is used in emergency situations. For example, I flew when I was covering President Biden, and he flew into Israel shortly after October 7th. There was a whole security briefing on the plane for us as the reporters, and this is something that he would have used, a lower entry door. He then used it throughout his presidency or later on his presidency. That sort of went with the age concerns, but this is easier and quicker to access. You don't have to wait for a jet bridge to come over. You can just get out. The Qatari donated jet does not have that. There's also advanced missile capabilities that the new Qatari donated jet is not visible. There's backup capacity that is not also part of that bridge plane. And the other thing, Chris, that I just want to point out is that the White House has said the plane is going into service again to be retrofitted and, hyper maxed up. Officials we've talked to said there is no way in just a 1 month time frame, which the White House has outlined roughly how long the plane will be out of service, that you could cut open another door and add that or add some of these other capabilities that are not on the Qatari donated jet. So again, it has taken years for Boeing to, and they're not even done, to make this new Air Force One fleet. And Trump has done that in a timeline of a few months.
Okay, and the final 30 seconds here. The conceit in the beginning was we're getting a plane donated. You guys are tallying what looks like maybe $900 million spent between retrofitting the Qatari plane and buying 2 others for parts and training.
Yes, this was not a cheap endeavor by any stretch of the imagination. And it's understandable. Again, the Air Force One requires a lot of security features to protect the president and enable him to do his job in the air. We don't have a full cost of what it has taken to retrofit this Qatari jet, but we do know it is hundreds of millions of dollars more than the $400 million that is already publicly identified being used to retrofit this plane.